The man I was with for 5 years already had a legal wife. He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He only said coldly, "We can keep things the way they are." Later, at a company cocktail party, his wife publicly singled me out and humiliated me. On the eve of my promotion, someone anonymously reported me for falsifying data. He even tried to buy my continued good behavior with $50,000. Everyone thought I would fall apart, back down, accept my fate. But they didn't know I chose to leave New York. I took the evidence with me. I fought back, tore open the lies, and sent them, one by one, into the abyss. The air conditioning in the car was freezing. I rubbed my arms and turned to look at Lucas as he drove. His profile flickered in and out of the streetlights. Handsome. We had just finished dinner. This was the third Thursday in a row he'd spent with me. I made a joke. "Your wife wouldn't mind, would she?" Screech. The tires shrieked against the pavement. My body lurched forward, the seatbelt biting into my shoulder. The car stopped at the curb. Lucas didn't look at me. His hands were still gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white. "Don't ever say something like that again," he said, his voice like ice. I froze. "Not you misunderstood. Not I don't have a wife. But don't ever say it again." I looked at him and suddenly felt like I was staring at a stranger. You're really married?" He finally turned his head. There was no guilt in his eyes, only impatience. "Yes, but we can keep things the way they are." Keep things the way they are? Keep meeting in secret every Thursday? Keep eating at the most hidden table in the restaurant? Keep me forever excluded from his social circle? "You know I'm not suited for marriage," he said calmly, as if talking about the weather. "You've known that from the beginning, right?" 5 years ago, he said, "I don't believe in the institution of marriage." 3 years ago, he said, "Aren't we good like this?" Last month, he said, "Don't pressure me." So this was what pressure meant. He had a legal wife all along. The lemon-scented car diffuser made my stomach churn. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. I rewrote the email to HR 3 times. The final version had only one sentence: "I am applying for an immediate transfer to the Silicon Valley branch." When I clicked send, my hand didn't shake. The third night after submitting the transfer request, I couldn't sleep. When I closed my eyes, everything came back in fragments. 5 years ago, at an alumni reunion, he asked for my number. He said, "You have a special smile." 4 years ago, on my birthday, he gave me a necklace. He said, it was my mother's. I cried from how touched I was. Now I realize his mother is very much alive. 3 years ago, when I changed jobs, he drove me to the interview. But downstairs he said, "You get out first. I'll go park." I never saw him again in that building. 2 years ago, I had a fever. He bought medicine and left it at my door. His WeChat message said, "Get some rest. Don't infect me." I actually thought he was considerate. 1 year ago, I asked him, "Will we ever get married?" He rubbed my hair. Does that piece of paper really matter? It didn't. What mattered was that in those 5 years, I never met his friends, never visited his workplace, never spent a night at his place, never saw him on holidays. Last year on my birthday, he said he was on a business trip. I scrolled through my feed and saw mutual friends post vacation photos on an island. In the corner of one photo, his hand was on a woman's waist. I took a screenshot and asked him about it. He replied, "Are you stalking my social media?" Then he called, his voice icy. "Evelyn, you've been emotionally unstable lately." I said, "I just want to know the truth." He said, "The truth is, you can't live without me." I hung up and sat in the dark. For the first time, I didn't cry. I just understood. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was his zone. A carefully divided, hidden, disposable zone he could shut down at any time. Monday morning, company meeting. The APAC president announced the candidates for the overseas project. My name was first. After the meeting, Lucas messaged me, "Same place tonight?" I deleted the chat. The day my transfer passed preliminary approval was the company anniversary cocktail party. I wore the simplest black dress. Lucas once said, "You look best in black." It's understated. Now I knew why. The champagne tower glittered under the lights. I stood in a corner holding a glass when a ripple went through the crowd. She had arrived. Claire Zhang, the CEO's daughter, a board member, Lucas's legal wife. She was holding his arm, smiling flawlessly. An ivory suit, diamond earrings, small, but blinding. They accepted congratulations like a prince and princess. Then she walked toward me. "You must be Evelyn," she said, extending her hand. "Nails perfectly manicured. Lucas talks about you often. Says you're his most capable subordinate." She bit down lightly on the word subordinate. Lucas stood beside her, expressionless. "I hear you're transferring to Silicon Valley?" Claire smiled. "It's good for young people to get out there. After all." She paused. "People without strong backgrounds can only rely on working themselves to the bone." A few directors' wives nearby covered their mouths and laughed softly. Lucas started to speak. "Claire, let's go over there. What's the rush?" Claire didn't let go. She looked at me. "Evelyn, I admire hardworking people, but some things can't be earned through effort. For example," she leaned closer, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "Some positions are decided at birth." She patted my shoulder, as if brushing off dust. Then she turned and left, arm looped through Lucas's. The crowd followed them. I stood there, condensation from the champagne glass dripping onto the back of my hand. Ice cold. In front of the bathroom mirror, I reapplied my lipstick. My hand was shaking, but stroke by stroke, I finished it perfectly. The woman in the mirror had red eyes, but no tears. 2 hours after the party ended, Lucas came. He had a key to my apartment. When the door opened, I was packing a suitcase. "You're moving out?" He frowned. I didn't stop. He walked over and wrapped his arms around me from behind. The scent of his cologne, the smell that used to make my heart race. "Stop making a fuss," he murmured, his lips brushing my ear. "I can help pull some strings with Silicon Valley. Stay in New York, and we can go back to how things were." I broke free. I turned to face him. "Like before?" "Like before. When I was your underground mistress every Thursday?" His face darkened. "Evelyn, don't put it so harshly." "Then how should I put it?" I heard how calm my own voice was. "That I'm a supplement to your marriage? That I'm a pleasure zone you don't have to take responsibility for?" He stared at me, then suddenly smiled. A smile full of pity. "Do you have any idea how childish you're being?" He took out his phone and tapped a few times. My phone buzzed. Bank notification, $50,000 credited. "Enough?" He leaned against the doorframe. "To buy you staying tonight and staying well-behaved in the future." I stared at the number. I thought of 5 years ago, when I lost my wallet and he sent me $200 for a cab. Back then, I thought he was the best man in the world. Turns out, in his eyes, I always had a price. It was just higher now. I picked up my phone and sent the money straight back. "Lucas," I said as I zipped up my suitcase, "from today on, I'm not any kind of zone of yours." He froze. Then he sneered. "You won't last a week. Without me, you're nothing in New York." I dragged my suitcase to the door. "Then let's find out." That night, I stayed at my best friend Emma's place. At 3 in the morning, my phone lit up. An email from the Silicon Valley office, final round interview invitation. Scheduled for next Monday. I replied, "I'll be there." Then I deleted every way to contact Lucas, including the chat window that used to be starred. 2 days before the final interview, everything blew up. The company's internal whistleblower system received an anonymous report accusing me of falsifying project data from the previous quarter. The email was copied to all senior executives. Lucas's name was the first on the recipient list. Half an hour later, I was called into a conference room. The APAC president, the project director, the head of compliance, and Claire, on the screen, joining remotely in her capacity as a board member. "Explain this," the president said, sliding a printed copy of the report toward me. The report looked convincing: screenshots, data comparisons, even several forged emails showing me instructing subordinates to alter results. The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioner. Every pair of eyes was fixed on me. I thought of yesterday, overhearing 2 colleagues whispering in the stairwell. I always thought she got promoted too fast. Turns out she used that kind of trick. I thought of the way people avoided my gaze at my desk that morning. I thought of Claire on the screen, lifting her coffee cup, a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. "These data are fabricated," I said. "Proof." The head of compliance tapped the table. I opened the laptop I'd brought with me. "The original data backups are here. The time-stamped logs for every single modification are here. The full internal chat records of the project team are here. I looked up at the screen. And as for the emails to subordinates mentioned in the report, the sender's IP address traces back to. I paused. The board secretary's internal network. The air in the room solidified. The president whipped his head toward Claire. Her smile froze. That's impossible, she blurted out. Why is it impossible? I asked calmly. Director Zhang, I haven't even said the exact IP address yet. How do you know it's impossible? Her face went instantly pale. Just then, there was a light knock on the conference room door. Emma poked her head in, wearing an apologetic smile. Sorry to interrupt, President, but IT just sent over some surveillance footage. They think it might be related. A USB drive was plugged in. The footage showed, late at night 3 days earlier, Claire's assistant swiping into my office. 10 minutes later, leaving with a USB drive in hand. Dead silence. I closed my laptop. I have a final interview to prepare for, so I'll excuse myself. At the door, I turned back. Oh, and about the transfer, I said, looking at Claire on the screen. No matter the outcome, I'm leaving New York, but I'm not running. It's this place. I swept my gaze around the room. That doesn't deserve to keep me. The door closed behind me. I leaned against the wall, my legs weak. Emma slipped over and pressed a chocolate into my hand. I may have reminded IT to check the cameras. She winked. Best friends don't work for free. I hugged her, my eyes finally burning. But I didn't cry, because my phone rang again. Another email from Silicon Valley. Final interview changed to virtual. Time unchanged. In addition, Director Daniel Lee will personally attend. Daniel Lee, the youngest Chinese-American director in the Silicon Valley office, known for being ruthless and decisive, and for having zero tolerance for office politics. The data fraud incident was hastily closed as an assistant's personal misconduct. Claire's assistant was fired. Claire herself temporarily stepped down from the board for health reasons. Lucas was placed under internal investigation. Someone anonymously reported irregular benefit transfers in projects he handled. The day the investigation order came down, he called me 23 times. I rejected every call. On the 24th, I answered. Evelyn. His voice was hoarse. We need to talk. I'm listening. Let's meet. No need. He was silent for a few seconds. The report against me, was that you? What do you think? You've changed. I laughed softly. Lucas, I haven't changed. You just never knew the real me, because for the past 5 years, I'd been playing the version of Evelyn he wanted. Understanding, quiet, undemanding, waiting obediently inside the boundaries he drew. What do you want? He asked, his tone softening. I can get a divorce. How ridiculous. Now he could get a divorce. And then? I asked. Marry me? Turn me into the next Claire? Let me play the wife who looks the other way when the next Evelyn shows up. I wouldn't, you would. I cut him off. Because you've never loved anyone. What you love is control. Control over your marriage. Control over your mistress. Control over the illusion of a perfect life. I could hear his breathing grow heavier. The transfer's approved. I said, I'm flying to Silicon Valley next week. Evelyn, don't go. I'm begging you, Lucas. I said his full name for the first time. Between us, ever since the day you slammed on the brakes, there's only one word left. What? Have your lawyer contact mine. I hung up, blocked the number. Outside the window, New York glittered as brilliantly as ever, but some lights, once extinguished, never come back on. The Silicon Valley sun was blinding. The branch office was all floor-to-ceiling windows. Outside were palm trees and a swimming pool, nothing like the suffocating concrete jungle of New York. On my first day, Director Daniel Lee called a project meeting. When I pushed the door open, he was writing equations on the whiteboard. Early 30s, black shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, rimless glasses. He turned when he heard me. Evelyn? He held out his hand. Welcome. I'm Daniel. His handshake was dry and firm, brief and professional. Your resume is unusual, he said, motioning for me to sit. 5 years at the New York headquarters, top performance every year, and then you transfer to Silicon Valley right before a promotion. He looked up. Why? We were alone in the conference room. Because, I said honestly, there was no place for me there. He studied me for a few seconds, then nodded. It's different here. He slid a folder across the table. New project. An AI medical diagnostic system. You're the technical lead. 3 months for a prototype. Unlimited budget. I opened the folder. Next to my name in the equity incentive section was a number, 3%. This is what you deserve, he said, standing up. One more thing. A partner company from the New York headquarters will be involved in early-stage data integration. You know the person in charge, Lucas Chin. My fingers paused. Is that a problem? Daniel asked. No. I closed the folder. I'll handle it professionally. Good. He walked to the door, then turned back. By the way, I don't care what gossip there is back in New York. Here, we speak with results. The door closed. I opened my laptop. In my inbox was a cooperation proposal from Lucas's company. Sender, Lucas Chin. The body contained only one sentence, looking forward to working together. I replied, please send the requirements document to the project mailbox and copy Director Daniel Lee. Thank you. 1 minute later, he called me directly. Evelyn, do you really have to do this? Mr. Chin, please follow formal channels for work matters. I know you're in Silicon Valley. I also know you got equity. His voice was tight with anger. How did you pull that off? Was it that Daniel, Lucas? I said calmly. You are now my vendor. If you continue using this personal tone, I'll request a change in counterpart. He hung up hard. I set the phone down and walked to the window. California's sunlight really is warm. Warm enough to make me realize that for the past 5 years, I'd been living under overcast skies. It was 4 a.m. when the pregnancy test showed 2 lines. I sat on the bathroom floor, staring at it over and over again. The 10th time, I laughed. I laughed until tears came. The baby was Lucas's. The only time, 2 months ago, on his birthday, he was drunk, came to see me, said it was a final goodbye. I'd softened. Looking back now, that was probably his last attempt at control. I made an appointment at a private clinic. The female doctor, in her 50s, reviewed the report and looked up at me. Do you want to keep it? Outside the window, plane trees rustled softly. I thought of my childhood, my mother raising me alone. She once said, the thing I regret most in my life was giving up my career for your father. The thing I regret least is giving birth to you. I thought of those 5 years in New York, shrinking myself inside the zone Lucas drew for me, believing that was the whole world. I thought of these 3 months in Silicon Valley, leading the team through 3 sleepless nights rewriting code, securing our first patent. At the celebration dinner, Daniel raised his glass to Evelyn, our best lead. I'll keep it, I said. The doctor nodded. What about the father? He doesn't need to know. It will be very hard alone. I know. I gripped the exam report, but I'm used to it. When I left the clinic, the sunlight was beautiful. I bought a cup of warm milk and sat on a park bench. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. I sent you the final version of the funding agreement. Also, you don't look great. Do you need to adjust your workload? He was always like this. Perceptive, but never crossing boundaries. I replied, reviewed the agreement, no issues. I'm fine physically. Thank you for the concern. I put the phone down and touched my still flat belly. Hey, I whispered. From today on, it's just the 2 of us. Mom will give you the best. Not to prove anything to anyone, but because we deserve it. That afternoon, I signed the funding agreement. My equity increased from 3% to 5%. That evening, the team went out for dinner. Daniel sat next to me and handed me a glass of warm water. You've only been drinking this lately. I took it. You're very observant. Just respect, he said, looking out at the night view. Everyone has a story they don't want to tell. In that moment, I suddenly felt that being respected was 10,000 times more important than being loved. Lucas found out about the pregnancy through a medical bill. His company was a partner on the Silicon Valley project, and some data interfaces required medical compliance documentation. My exam report was on the transmission list. The clinic made a mistake and uploaded the full file. When he called, his voice was shaking. Is the child mine? I was in the middle of a project meeting and stepped into the hallway. It has nothing to do with you. I'm flying over right now. There's no need. But he came anyway. 3 days later, he showed up downstairs at my office. Unshaven, suit wrinkled. We need to talk, he said, grabbing my wrist. I pulled away. Mr. Chin, this is my workplace. Just 5 minutes. His eyes were red. Evelyn, that's my child. I have a right. What right do you have? I cut him off. The right to keep me as a secret mistress for 5 years? The right to call me a subordinate in front of your wife? Or the right to buy my obedience with $50,000? He froze. I'm keeping the baby, I said calmly, but it has nothing to do with you. I won't take a cent from you, and you'll never meet the child. I can divorce her, he shouted. I'll do it now. I'll marry you. We'll be a family, Lucas. I looked at him. Are you worthy of that? It was like he'd been slapped. If you dare tell Claire about my pregnancy. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I'll immediately terminate all cooperation on the grounds of harassment of a partner's project lead. You know how much your company has riding on this project. His pupils constricted. So, I stepped back. Stay professional. Be a good vendor. That's the only reason you still get to stand here. I turned and went back inside. As the glass doors closed, I saw him still standing there, like a statue melting in the rain. In the elevator, I received a text from Daniel. Do you need security? I replied, no, it's handled. He responded, good. The afternoon meeting is postponed. Rest for now. Reading those words, my eyes finally welled up. Being protected felt like this. No begging, no bargaining, no living in a zone. At the same moment, in the shadowed fire exit, Claire clamped her hand over her mouth. She had followed Lucas all the way here. Her fingernails dug into her palm. Streaks of blood appeared. A week later, tech media exploded with headlines. Chinese-American socialite Claire Zhang's family faces financial crisis. Suspected cross-border tax evasion expose. Zhang Family Education Charity Fund, a money laundering channel, insider reveals. Claire Zhang violated board policies multiple times. The articles included photos of Claire at last year's charity gala, diamond crown, poised smile, elegant as ever. The comment sections went wild. Turns out socialite money isn't clean either. No wonder her husband was cheating. Who would want to touch that family? She even tried to blacken that female exec transferring to Silicon Valley. Guess it was jealousy. I scrolled through the news. Expression calm. Emma called. Did you see? The Jean family is finished. Board plans to sue Claire. And her father flew to Switzerland overnight for medical treatment. Why are you so calm? Was it you, Emma? I interrupted. I'm feeding the cat. I really was. A stray orange cat had been hanging around the Silicon Valley apartment building recently, scavenging for food. After hanging up, I scratched the cat's head. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. Was that you? Claire's voice was hoarse. Nasty. Those leaks, was it you? Claire. I scooped a spoonful of cat food. Don't you get it yet? It wasn't me. And it wasn't Lucas who destroyed you. It was you. The dirty deals? Signed by you. The fake charity events? You stood on stage for them. The things you crushed with money and power? You allowed them. What you're going through now? That's called backlash. Crying came through the line. Muffled. Then screaming, you're enjoying this. You're just a... I hung up. Blocked the number. The orange cat rubbed against my ankle. I crouched down and scratched under its chin. See? I whispered. A tower built on lies can collapse with just a gust of wind. And what's real, even if buried in dirt for a while, will grow on its own. That afternoon, Daniel came to my office. The New York board issued a notice. He said, placing the document on my desk. All cooperation with Lucas's company is terminated, with rights to pursue legal action preserved. I opened the file. On the last page, Lucas's signature pressed into the paper like a final struggle. Also, Daniel paused. This morning Claire tried to access the company system to steal project data but was blocked by security. She has now been formally prosecuted. I nodded. Understood. You're okay? He asked, looking into my eyes. I'm fine. I smiled. I just feel, the sun is so good. Outside, the California sunset blazed. On the day of the project launch, 2 pieces of news came from New York. First, Lucas officially resigned. The board cited personal reasons, but insiders knew it was the Zhang family scandal, combined with the collapsed project partnership, that got him fired. Second, Claire signed the divorce papers. The Zhang family demanded a complete cutoff between her and Lucas. Media photos showed her pale and exhausted. leaving the courthouse with her lawyer. The launch event was held at the top of a landmark Silicon Valley building. As project lead, I took the stage. The spotlight hit my face. I saw Daniel in the audience, giving me a slight nod. I also saw Lucas in the shadows at the back, wearing a hat. I didn't pause. The presentation ended. Applause thundered. During the Q&A, someone asked, Ms. Evelyn, there's speculation that some of the project's success was thanks to the groundwork by your former New York colleague, Lucas Chin. What's your response? The room fell silent. I took the microphone. First, this project is the result of the entire team's efforts. Second, I looked toward the back. As for Mr. Lucas Chin, we did work together. And that's all it was, working together. Finally, I want to clarify something. I took a deep breath. For the past 5 years, I was Lucas Chen's secret lover. He never acknowledged my existence. In his marriage and social circle, I was invisible. Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed like crazy. Lucas suddenly stood up. But today, I raised my voice. I no longer need to be invisible, because I no longer need anyone's recognition to prove I exist. This project, this stage, my life, now, it's entirely in my own hands. I finished speaking and bowed before stepping down. Passing the back row, Lucas rushed forward, grabbing my arm. Evelyn. I'm sorry. His eyes were red, hair messy, completely stripped of his former elite facade. I really know I was wrong. Just give me one more chance. We can marry. I'll be good to the child, Lucas. I pulled my arm away. The father field on the birth certificate will be blank. He froze. Not because I hate you. I adjusted my sleeve. But because you are unworthy of being remembered as a father. Then at least let me compensate. I can give you all my money, see. I smiled. Even now you still think money solves everything. But I'll tell you, Lucas, I don't want your money. Don't want your apology. Don't want you. The only thing I want is for you to completely disappear from my life. This, I looked him in the eyes, is the last compensation you'll ever give me. His knees buckled. He fell to the ground. Gasps filled the room. I didn't look back. Walking straight toward the backstage, Daniel was waiting, handing me a cup of warm water. Brilliant, he said. Thank you. I took the water. Also, thank you for speaking for me with the board. He raised an eyebrow. What did I say? You said, Evelyn's value does not need to be proven by past relationships. He smiled. So you heard that? Yes. I took a sip. So, to show my thanks, dinner this weekend? He paused. Deal. The weekend dinner was at a small Italian restaurant, candlelight, accordion music. After ordering, Daniel naturally handed the menu back to the waiter. She doesn't drink red wine. Swap it for fresh orange juice. Also, change the prosciutto in the appetizer to a cooked charcuterie plate. The waiter nodded and left. I looked at him. How did you know I don't eat raw food? Last team dinner, you picked it out. He poured water. And now, you can't drink alcohol. I touched my belly. When did you figure that out? About 2 months ago. He slid over a small basket of bread. You started wearing flats. Always kept soda crackers at your desk. And refused all evening events. I was silent. I didn't tell anyone. He added, It's your privacy. Thank you. You're welcome. He sliced the bread. I just think pregnancy is hard enough without having to deal with everyone else's eyes. The candlelight flickered across his face, soft and warm. We talked a lot that night, about him growing up in San Francisco, about my mother raising me alone, about our shared love for seaside sunsets, about what AI healthcare could achieve in the future. No probing, no schemes, no zones you belong to, just 2 adults having a sincere conversation. When dinner ended, he drove me home. At the apartment building, as I unbuckled, he suddenly said, Evelyn. I'm not good at saying pretty things, he said, eyes on the wheel. But if you ever need me, anytime, for anything, I'll be there. Not I love you, not be with me, just I'll be there. My throat tightened. Daniel. Next month. For the checkup, if you're free. He turned to look at me. Will you come with me? I asked. I just don't want to go alone. He looked at me for a long moment, then smiled, a very gentle smile. That night, I lay in bed, hand on my belly. Baby, I whispered. Mom seems to have met someone good. Not because he's perfect, but because he makes me feel that just being myself is enough. Daniel and I had our wedding at a small California vineyard. Simple. With just 50 guests. Emma flew in from New York as my bridesmaid and cried so hard her makeup ran. Before the ceremony, I was in the dressing room, checking my gown one last time. Emma burst in, pale. He's here. Who? Lucas. And Claire. They're at the entrance. I set down my lipstick, walked to the window. At the vineyard entrance, Lucas was arguing with security, suit wrinkled, holding a bouquet. Claire was not far behind, hair messy, eyes hollow. Call the police? Emma asked. I shook my head. Let them in. Evelyn. Some performances, I adjusted my veil, are meant to be seen to the end. The ceremony took place on the lawn. As I walked down the flower-lined aisle with my mother, I saw Lucas in the front row, his gaze locked on me, eyes red. Daniel waited at the end, smiling like a young man. No glasses today. During the vows, Lucas suddenly stood. Evelyn. The crowd fell silent. Security moved forward, but Daniel raised his hand to stop them. Let him speak, I said calmly. Lucas reached the center aisle, voice trembling. Do you really not love me at all? Guests whispered. I took the microphone. Lucas, I asked you this 5 years ago. I asked, do you love me? You said, love doesn't need to be spoken. 3 years ago I asked, will we get married? You said, does that piece of paper matter? 1 year ago I asked, who am I to you? You said, don't ask these questions. I lowered the microphone, staring at him. So you see, it's not that I don't love you now. It's that you never gave me the right to be loved. He staggered a step. But now I understand. I continued. You never loved me. You loved the feeling of control. You loved having a woman wait for you without status. You loved a safe outlet outside your perfect marriage. That's not love. That's exploitation. Silence fell. Lucas opened his mouth. No sound came out. As for Claire, I turned to the back row. You blamed the wrong person. It wasn't me who ruined your marriage, it was your husband, and the shady dealings of your family. Claire suddenly covered her face and ran out. Lucas remained, like a weathered statue. Daniel stepped to my side, holding my hand. Shall we continue? He asked softly. Yes, I said. The priest took a deep breath and raised the Bible again. Daniel Lee. Do you? Vows resumed. In the sunlight, my ring sparkled. Halfway through the reception, Lucas was still outside, sitting on a bench, the bouquet fallen to the ground. When I changed into my toasting dress, I saw Daniel speaking to him. I walked over. Live well, Daniel said. Don't come back. Lucas looked up at me, eyes red again. One last question. He croaked. If there was no Claire, no marriage, could we have been possible? Daniel glanced at me, ready to step aside. I held his hand. Lucas, I said, that question is like asking, if there were no gravity, would the apple fall? Because your marriage was real. Your concealment was real. Your decision to put me in the mistress spot was real. And what's real can't be erased by what ifs. He lowered his head. I used to hate you. I continued. But now I don't even bother. Hating you takes emotion. And my emotions are too valuable now. I linked arms with Daniel. Let's go, I said. The guests are waiting. We walked back into the brightly lit banquet hall. Behind us, the California stars. Before us, the warmth of the world. That night, I slept well. No nightmares. No sudden awakenings. Only the gentle kicks from the baby inside me, and the steady breaths beside me. 3 years later, on a weekend morning, I was working from home. Daniel was building blocks with our daughter in the living room. The 2-year-old jabbered and directed. Daddy, here. A notification popped up on my phone. Former Wall Street elite Lucas Chan switches to insurance sales. Photographed eating cheap boxed lunch on the street. In the photo, his hair was half white. Sitting on the steps eating. I swiped it away. Mommy! Our daughter ran over, holding her crooked blockhouse. Look! So pretty! I scooped her up and kissed her cheek. You're amazing, baby. Daniel came over and handed me a cup of warm milk. The New York office wants you back as GM. No. I took the milk. It's good here. That's what I told them too. He sat down. Also, news about Claire, her mental health isn't stable. She's in a sanatorium. I nodded. The sunlight outside was perfect. Mommy, our daughter touched my face. Smile. I smiled. Because I'm happy. I rubbed her little nose. Daniel watched us and smiled as well. That afternoon, I took our daughter to the park. She wobbled after pigeons while I sat on a bench watching. An elderly Asian woman sat nearby and complimented her. We chatted idly. She said her daughter also worked in Silicon Valley. Single. And very driven. And your husband? She asked. At home cooking. I said. That's wonderful. She said. For a woman, finding the right person is so important. I smiled quietly, saying nothing. Not because Daniel was perfect, but because now, whether there was someone by my side or no one at all, I was already whole. On the way home that evening, our daughter slept in my arms. The sunset dyed the clouds pink. My phone vibrated. Emma had sent a message. Heard Lucas wants to contact you. Says he's sick and needs money. I blocked it. I replied, thanks. Next time, don't tell me about these things. She sent back an okay emoji. I set my phone down and hummed softly. The little one stirred and mumbled. Mommy, yes. I kissed her forehead. Mommy's here. Always here. Not anyone's wife. Not anyone's lover. Not anyone's subordinate. Just me, Evelyn. The full me, who cries and laughs. Makes mistakes and rises again. Loves and refuses. And maybe, this is what it means to truly win. Not to win over someone else, but to finally, completely, win back myself.